So right now, I've just come across a task that I particularly want to do. I've selected these few files from an item, and I want to be able to zip them up. So I created a zip file. No, I created a button called Create Zip File, and it needs some default values set up for it. And my computer chair is just there. And I've already taken a bunch of my medication. But when I would normally take my medication and lock in and write code, now they want me to drink from a water bottle so that they can unthrottle me. And every part of me is like, but I've tried drinking from a water bottle before, and that hasn't given me focus. So now I've got this thing that I want to get done. I've got my chair just there. I need to sit down and focus. I'm going to drink some water. And hopefully they're going to unthrottle me enough and release some of my dopamine so that I can sit in my chair. No, there's a creatine bottle here somewhere too. So they want me to use this one to come down. And switch task. So then now am I going to get the focus that I need in order to sit in my chair and write code? Because I want to change this. I want to make it so that I create a new button, create zip file, and automatically populates the action, but it needs to populate the icon and the icon color. But they are still not giving me enough dopamine. So like, I'm looking at my computer, I'm like, I cannot be fucked. But I've already had enough medication, like more than enough medication. But they're throttling it on their end. And then the fucked up part about it is like, sometimes I'll follow the instruction and I'll drink my water and it'll work. Or sometimes they've got a different operator and they're like, well, he drank from his bottle, so I'm going to turn off the throttle just a little bit. And they have no idea. It's like, dude, if the water was the thing giving me that focus and that energy, I would expect that the amount of water that I would drink but it's not even like that, because my tummy can be full as fuck and I don't want to be jamming more water into my tummy just because I can't focus, just because they're throttling me, when the problem is not drinking more water, the problem is then unthrottling. So then they have to gauge, they have to try and figure out when to release the throttle which just completely strips me from my own freedom. Why can't I just go back to my normal life? Well, because apparently I know a whole bunch of secrets that they don't want known. So then I keep collecting all of this information, and I keep becoming more of a threat. But then they've got these inconsistencies in their system, and so right now they've just blanked my brain. So from the conversation, just went to just nothing. Yep. So there's that. And then what else is there? There's YouTube. So apparently, something interesting enough though, is that even if they blank my brain, I'm still able to go to my Facebook page and make some things public. Device is getting throttled. And then just like over time, the glue just gets stickier because I just keep collecting more information and consolidating it and making it quicker and easier for the message to get across. But then like they won't put me on a contract so that they can just unleash all of this information with me, so it's just muddy and it's sticky. And like, so there's all these YouTube videos that they've gotten me to make private, and they punish me if I'm not making these videos private. And it's just sticky, and it just keeps getting stickier. And then they throttle my internet so that anything that tries to upload to YouTube is just super slow. And then they throttle my phone so that when I try to join two videos together, that even that takes a super long time. So then it leads into the other problem that they cause upon me, which is that, right. So I used to have this really efficient way of writing code, right? So what I would do is I would take my medication and I didn't know how the medication worked at first. So when I was they're blanking my brain. I can't even think of how old I was. Blanking my brain. Whenever my brain can stop being blank, that'd be great. Am I acting right now? No. I'm trying to think of how old I was when I started taking my ADHD medication. 20-ish. 2021. Thanks for unblanking my brain a little bit. No worries. Yeah, cool. So yeah, right. So I started taking the medication and I didn't know how it worked at first. But then eventually I gained confidence in the medication because eventually I got to the point where I would take 5 meds 40 minutes before I was supposed to wake up. So 5, saying take more medication now. So at 5, blanking my brain again. Yeah, 5:20 in the morning, I would set my alarm so that yeah, and then take 5 of my medication and then go back to sleep. So then by the time 6 o'clock rocked around, I would end up with this really, like, my sleep degraded terribly past that point, to the point where I was just awake. And I was very awake. And then I would smash out code first thing in the morning, and it was great. So that's what gave me the confidence in my medication. And then, so then I had that confidence. They're prompting me to take more medication right now, even though they're sitting on the throttle. They try to get me to waste my medication so that I run out faster, so that I'm less of a threat. So we've got, which one? Yeah, the threat mitigation team. So right now they're prompting me to take medication, even though they're sitting on the throttle and they're choosing to make it difficult for me to. Notice how I'm talking super fast now? And before I was completely brain blanked. So they've got that capability. No, this is not acting. What else? Right, so I gained medication. I gained confidence in my medication that way. I wake up, like it'd force me to wake up, and then I would smash out code, and I loved it. I would vibe super hard as I write code. And actually, yeah, that's how I got the code to where it is now. Which, so let's go have a look at that. Format.js. All right, I need to paste in format.js code. So that's what format.js looked like. Like, I remember a very distinct rising that I woke up and I was smashing out this code for format valid string. And yeah, my format valid functions. So I loved that. That gave me the confidence in that medication, right? So then what I eventually discovered was that, besides the fact that the medication would make me productive, I found that I was able to achieve different levels of productivity based on the way that I would take the medication. And what I eventually discovered was that I could end up with like a 300% productivity boost, as opposed to just, being 100% productive. So how did I achieve 300%? Well, what I would do, so it sort of has to do with the way that the medication works, right? Because it locks you onto one thing. And I found that if I just take a whole bunch of medication, I can get locked onto my to-dos list. Which actually, it's kind of nice that they have the ability to throttle, because before my focus would just get stuck. But now they're able to unstick it so that, like, lift the tires off the road, lift the car off the road, point it in the right direction, and then they drop it down again, and it's still, you're trying to take off at full speed. So I would, I would get stuck on trying to figure out what to start on. And that would be my issue. So the way that I overcame this was I forced myself. So for starters, if you have ADHD, you can't just force yourself to focus. for other people, they can, like, when you need to get something done, other people can. They can just, I need to do this thing. I don't really want to do it, but I'm going to push through it, right? But people with ADHD, like, that doesn't excuse them from not having to do anything important, but it's just way more difficult. It's way more difficult. So they've just prompted me to take more creatine again, so that I can hopefully hop off that topic. For a few seconds there, they blanked my brain. Like, this is the fucked up part about it. They're standing there on the other side, holding the controls in their hands, but they're being inconsistent with the way they use the controls, and so then I suffer because, like, I'm trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work, and they're on the other side fucking with it, like, making it literally impossible for me to determine which things are causing the kind of effects that I'm going for. It would be one thing if you had the same human operator working it every time, but they don't. They just, oh yeah, let's just move on to another person. Just read the notes from the previous shift and let's skip all the important stuff. Oh, no. We'll remember the stuff that's important to us. The stuff that's important to them, you'll figure it out. Just go do your job so you can get paid. And now they've blanked my brain again. So I'm going to try drinking water. See, there's this psychologically fucked up part about it. They're playing God. That's what people think God is. It's humans who sit at a control desk, switching turns, making it rain, making birds chirp, giving you little itchy spots on the sides of your head when you remember something or when you're being creative. That's not a built-in human response. So I gained confidence on my medication because of waking up and being able to smash out code. I had problems when I would get stuck on trying to figure out what to start with. And then, but I found this 300% productivity boost, which is that if I were to force myself, so ADHDers can't just force themselves to work on stuff, but because I had that confidence in the medication, what would happen is I eventually, it was a trial and error process, but what it ended up being was I allowed my energy to become drained. So I pushed myself. Here's the thing, without the medication, it's like you force yourself and then you just get nowhere and it's not fruitful. So you're like, well, okay, I had a teensy energy supply and I used it up. And that's it. And it's over. But then I'd learned when this medication would take effect that if I could time it right and I would force that little bit of focus right before the medication took effect, then it would deplete that little bit of energy that I had, but then it would immediately top me up. And because I was already going in a direction, then it boosted me in that direction and I wouldn't get stuck trying to figure out what to start on. So that was awesome. But then, but wait, there's a catch. What's the catch? Well, Then I bumped my dad. And then I got punished by God. And I thought Dad was switching my drugs. Dad was not switching my drugs. They just have this way to remotely give you massive, massive, massive headaches. So when I was running through the bush with my mouth open uncontrollably, it was because they were administering that to me to try and teach me that taking too much of your medication causes these side effects. As a matter of fact, no. Taking too much of your medication gets you to sit in your chair very quietly and buzz and write code. So then they psychologically fucked me back and forth over and over again. And my confidence in using up that little bit of energy supply that I have is gone. It's never coming back because they're not giving me the control that I need to even try and implement that again. Because they are the ones sitting there throttling it. They choose when to and when not to, and they're inconsistent with it. And they're like, well, drink from this water bottle and then drink from that water bottle and then they switch shifts and people have a different amount of, it's like a different way to perceive that. So when you're like, well, I did this last time and it's not working this time. Whereas back in the day, I would always get consistent results with my medication. Like I would take this much, and I knew how much my medication I needed to take in order to achieve how much focus I needed to fulfill a particular task. I'm like, okay, this is a big task, so I'm going to take this many meds. And then I would hit the target. Like I would reach my goal because I knew, because the controls were in my own hands. And now, not only are they not in my own hands, well, that'd be okay if I could just get to know the operator and we can get savvy and we can figure out how to come to terms and then we can agree on some sort of consistent approach. But then they switch shift and a different person's in control. And I'm sitting here trying to describe to them how they can automate these things and they're not doing it. And now they prompt me again to take medication, even though I've already got way more medication in my system than I need. Why? Because they consider me a threat. They want me to use up all of my medication as they throttle it so that it does nothing. And then starve me of funds so I can't just go get more. And they won't let me work on my own thing because they are looking at my software being like, oh, we want to steal that. Can you just do the work for us? Not the things that you actually want to get done. We don't ever give a fuck about the fact that there's things in your way that are going to make your life easier if you work on those things. We just want you to hurry up and make it useful for us. Yeah, so there's that, and I'm starved of funds. And I was going to say, so why don't I just, then when I'm out of medication, then I can just make more of this content public. Sorry, the pausing is because they're stopping me. Let that record show. I might add something to the screen that's like they're currently throttling the fuck out of me. Something like that. Yeah, brain stop. Yeah, I might add some big red text to the screen that says brain stop when they do this. Because when I'm trying to get to the point, they're slowing me down. And it's exposing them. Like, how does this benefit you? So anyway, not having the medication that I need, they want me to use up more than I need so that they can throttle me. So that because don't even have the funds to just go buy more of this medication every time that I need to buy more because I've got bills to pay. And then they starve my funds and they won't provide me a prescription for my medication. Why don't they provide me a prescription for my medication? Well, interesting, because as part of this story goes, when I got punished by God with these massive headaches, then the legal system, the hospital system, categorizes me as having psychosis. Because when I'm running through the bush with my mouth open, and they say, oh, well, you were prescribed that medication at the time, so it must be that medication that's doing it to you. Sorry, I just paused for dramatic effect because as I pause for that dramatic effect, it allows the thought to sink into other people's heads, and they use that as well. So, I starved of funds. I could just buy a bottle of medication from the chemist for $10, but no, you need a prescription for that. Why don't I have a prescription for that? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, they got me to run through the bush with my mouth open, which got me sent to hospital 4 times. As we can see. Where's the 4th time I got sent to hospital? Oh, sorry, I had to hide that one as well. They've been making me hide a whole bunch of posts. And then they punish me if I put them public again. The 4th time I got sent to hospital. But then I just keep collecting more information on them. Like, I don't get it. Like, dude, just get the fuck out of my way and let me write code. Because every time you get in my way, and then my focus gets stuck on the fact that you're in my way, and so then you throttle me some more, and I'm like, well, now I'm going to record the fact that you're throttling. And then I speak in a way that's too intense, and they just don't want to deal with me, so they shut their ears. Which, go back to the start of this conversation. Do we have that somewhere? Yeah, we've got that somewhere. It's in here somewhere. We can go back to that part. Yeah, just chop to that part. Okay, so went to hospital 4 times. The first time I went to hospital, they cut off my medication. Why? Because they flagged the running through the bush as psychosis. You've got this remotely controlled ability to generate massive headaches inside of people behind a control desk, and then anyone who experiences that, such as I, gets their ability to receive ADHD medication for $10 cut off because why do they cut off the medication? Because apparently I'm a threat. Why? Because of the software that I make. Because hidden behind here somewhere is a bunch of tools that they want to use for their own benefit, and they only want to shape it for their own benefit. They don't they just don't like me writing code that helps myself. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll let you do that sometimes, but it's mostly going to be for us. And I don't get paid for this, by the way. So they keep prompting me to take more of my medication. I keep running out of my medication faster. They keep throttling me as I take the medication. So I've taken more medication than I need, and then they throttle it so that it does nothing. And then they control me via funds. Well, why wouldn't you just buy it for $10 for a bottle? Because they control that as well. So there's this threat mitigation team that have operatives that sit behind a control desk, and they monitor everything I do, and they control my limbs, and they monitor me, and they punish me if I'm doing stuff that exposes them. But they also technically punish me by forcing me to waste my funds on stuff. Forcing me to waste my funds on medication that I should be getting from a chemist, which I can't get from a chemist because they barred me, because they flagged me as psychosis, because they generated this massive headache inside of me. But we've got enough cover that people don't understand enough about drugs. So whenever you mention that topic, that's fine. That's no one gets it. So we've got a solid cover there. There's no point even talking about this topic because we've already covered our bases there. We've already programmed the fuck out of people so that they just don't get that topic. But it's okay. We'll continue to confuse people on that topic so that if you try to get to the point, we'll just confuse everyone away from it because that's what we do. I've got to keep a log now. So I've just made these 2 posts public. Later on, they're going to come back to me and they're going to be like, why did you make those posts public? Why were you just sitting on those posts as being public? And my reason right now is because I've taken medication and I should be writing code. And they're telling me to do shit like eat fruit. And they're also telling me to do shit like drink water. And sure, I appreciate them keeping me alive, but what I really want to do is write code. How do I generally work? Well, I like to reward myself when I've done good. I like to be like, okay, I've done the work for the day. Let's go do the vessel needs. But no, they're just not having it. Why? Because I'm not doing enough work for them, which they're not paying me for. It prompted me again to take medication, which I already have plenty of it in my system, as you can tell, so that they can waste it and throttle me at the same time. They're prompting me again to perform another redundant action, which is to drink water. Because if I drink water, then they'll unthrottle me a little bit, inconsistently, depending on how they feel. Just to be clear, right now I've taken my medication. Oh, they've just prompted me to take the medication again. So my time is being wasted. They throttle my laptop when I try to use it. And then sometimes they just disable the throttle. And it works completely fine. So they're wasting my time right now. Which means that, right, oh yeah, so in the future they're going to come back, they're going to be like, why did you make these things public? And I'm going to be like, well, I'm sitting here right now, I would like to be writing code. I've taken medication that I already can't afford. You'll prompt me to take more as you throttle me, which means that the medication is essentially going to waste for no good purpose, which then just depletes me of funds and my ability to actually work on my own app. But your app is going to generate funds for you, so then you're unstoppable, so we're going to prevent that as well. They remember that they're going to remember that I'm complaining right now, and they're going to use it against me in future. They're going to remember that I'm whinging about what they're wanting me to do, which is to drink my milk and drink my water. So that they can stop my brain as I'm in the middle of a conversation. Sounds about right. Why are we even in this kerfuffle today? Well, you see, there is this.
Bro, this is just weird, right? There's human teams that are guiding my actions, but they can't see. It's like they can they know where objects are, sort of, but they're relying on. There's this dumb line between, well, you should intuitively know what to pick up, and we're guiding you. And so it's alright, so you let them guide you, and then you pick up the thing that they're guiding you towards. Like, you've got a shampoo bottle and a conditioner bottle, and they have no idea which one's which. They're both the same shape. They're, like, one could be right next to the other one, or vice versa, and they have no idea. They can't tell. So when they're like, yeah, go wash your hair, or don't wash your hair every day, just condition your hair more often than you wash your hair. So then their instruction is, alright, go wash your hair. So then you look at the shampoo bottle as if it's the conditioner bottle, and you're like, do I just condition my hair? And so then they're like, no, wash your hair as well. Alright, so then you grab both bottles, and then you realize that actually you were pointing at the conditioner bottle in the first place. So then when you put the two bottles down, then you pick up, you use from the conditioner bottle because you're unclear on the instruction. And so then they get even more confused, because they're like, wait, we're watching his movements. It's a lot harder to push shampoo through your hair than the fluidity of this. What's up with this shampoo? And until the hat drops, and like, no, you're telling me this whole time. So they can't see. What was the point of this recording? Because yesterday I was talking about reminders, and grabbed water, got creatine. Yesterday I was talking about reminders, and the difference between category A and category B. So most people, for the record, I said this many times, but I'll say it again, category B is where people start out. Right? People don't take drugs by default. And then sort of once you enter category A, there's no way to get back to category B. So that puts me in category A. And I'll say this part as well, for the record, that the way that I take my medication, I need my medication in order to write code. So without taking the medication, I can't write code. And people will be like, well, why don't you just not take medication if it's causing you these problems? And then also, for the record, I've already made a YouTube video which goes into, I started out smoking weed, and that's how I made my first website, mindslap.net, and then I started taking dexamphetamine, which is what gave me the focus to start again and make a way better app and not write such terrible crap code, right? So I've already decided that it's worth dealing with the side effects of the medication so that I can write code. Because without the medication, I can't write the code to the degree that I want to write code to. So there's that. So I know that I want to write code, which means I take this medication and I deal with the side effects of the medication. Now this is incompatible because this system that controls people, that literally guides people's movement, was built for category B. And what does that mean? Well, what happens is they start guiding you, and you sort of have to submit a little bit. So you gotta, it's like hypnosis almost. Like, you can't just hypnotize someone. They have to be a willing participant. Okay, so you allow yourself to be guided, right? And for category B, this is fine because when they stop guiding you, then you just go back to controlling yourself as you normally would. But for category A, or rather for this particular medication that I take in order to sustain focus, which is an ADHD medication, which ADHD is their attention's all over the place. Like it's very difficult to just stay on topic. Right now I'm on medication, which is why I'm able to stay on topic with this. So in order to not go all over the place, literally what the medication does is it locks your focus onto this one thing, okay? So then you're dealing with this system that wants to guide you, and so you allow yourself to be guided, and then they'll just switch off the guiding mechanism and be like, all right, you kick in, like your turn, because this is what category B normally does. We've switched off the guiding system and go back to you controlling you. But I'd say that's not compatible, because they'll switch it off and I'll still be locked on to like allowing myself to be guided, and then there's just no input. There's no like nothing is received because they've finished guiding me. And then like yesterday I brought in my washing and I was just standing in my room for a good like 5 to 10 seconds holding my washing, nothing going through my head, because I'd locked onto the idea of like, okay, I've got to take my washing to my room. So I did, and then that finished, and then I'd locked on to allowing myself to be guided, and they must have like a procedure for, like a safe enough procedure for go to your bedroom, and that procedure played, but then the operator didn't pick up on the fact that I was just standing there doing nothing for a bit. So then people who have to use these controls, they're like, well, why wouldn't you just not take medication? And I'm not going to repeat myself. It's already in the beginning of this recording, so that's where the mismatch comes about. Because you've got a system that's designed for category B, and I take a medication in order to write code. I'm not changing that, and I'm dealing with the side effects, but the system designed for category B is good, actually, but there's some incompatibilities. Well, not actually incompatibilities, just parts that they haven't refined perfectly just yet. So there's some hiccups. So then you've got the next part, which is identifying user intent. And, I didn't even finish the part that I was talking about. So the part that I was trying to talk about yesterday that I described, which is already on their record, but apparently I've got to make my own record of it, is because I'm a bit of an odd sample, and because they keep switching operators, like there's not just one person that knows my habits, that knows me perfectly well, and then when they switch over, they've got to just read the notes from the previous shift, and each time a person changes, they've got to relearn it all over again, and they're miscalibrated, where a program should be doing that for them. And like, I appreciate the human effort being there. Like, I'm not just talking to a brick wall and not being hurt, so I appreciate the human effort being there, but it's lacking the automation in place to know the characteristics of someone such that an operator, like, it's not even operator error, it's like, shouldn't be the operator's job to know certain traits that a program can memorize for them. Like, you've switched over and a new person's just hopped on board, or a new shift. It's like the upskilling process should not be that in depth. You shouldn't need to learn that much about someone if you're using a software that can do that for them. So anyway, the point of this was talking about reminders, and when I get certain reminders to, I don't know, drink water, or to drink milk, or to eat food, and I don't immediately follow that reminder, what I'll notice is eventually the reminding pings will just fall off. They'll just die. And it makes it very clear to me that it's not completely software driven.
And that?
Because you're literally dealing with another human that you've connected with their emotional state, or vice versa, and they're observing where your attention is. But then they'll make you think that it's computer driven. And they'll try to get you to forget that it's actually humans driving it, but then there'll always be these parts that make it really obvious. And those keep showing up. But then they wipe your memory of it again. But then other parts show up again. And I'm like, I don't need to remember this kind of stuff, but if something happens enough times, and I'm like, you can automate that. And it's like I've got no progress update of like, oh yeah, we've actually, that thing's in our queue, we're getting there, and not just, well, I'm an operator, this is my job. It's like I can't be asked sending a development request to get things changed. That, or it's literally just not in your job description for you to be putting in suggestions about the stuff. Like, people that are on demo mode, they just do what they're told, and that's it. Me, I'm a little bit different. I'm like, okay, this could be done a little better. Why is it not? And I sort of experienced that a little bit in a few of the workplaces that I worked at. They were like, do your job. And what happened? Well, I was like, can we change this? Like, it'd be worth fixing this thing. And the managers there were like, no, stop making these suggestions. You're not getting paid to come up with ideas. We're not paying you for ideas. We're paying you to use the shitty tools and to not complain about how shitty the tools are. The point of that aside, what I was trying to say is that I'm noticing notifications or reminders that just fall off. And people are trying to, and like the message hasn't gotten through yet. Like, if something annoys me enough, I will be very loud and I will be shouting. This is not shouting. When I'm slapping walls and I'm screaming, stop the fucking headaches, or stop fucking throttling my fucking laptop right fucking now, right? A lot louder than that, that's when I'm getting annoyed at something. If I'm not getting to that point, what I'm saying is these reminders, these notifications, they're not annoying enough. But there's another part to it too, because like if my tummy's literally too full to keep on stuffing more food in, because yes, this medication suppresses appetite, and they don't want to be too forceful. So majority of their job is just to make sure that you're doing the checks. so that you're self-regulating. But the reason that I've got management is because some of those, like, I'm failing it. Like, I need people to pull me out of a zone of focus if I'm just staying in the same spot for too long. Like, it's different if you're getting somewhere. It's different if a point is getting across and you're actually making groundwork such that you don't have to revisit the same topic again. But it's totally different if you've just walked into your bedroom and you're holding washing and you're standing there and you need someone to pull you out of it, otherwise you're just going to keep on standing there for a while. Because the person that pulls you out of it, they know what actually needs to change in that moment. Which is not quite the same as, like... Right, so the pending notifications, good, they pulled me out in the moment. That's the thing that I'm asking for. To get pulled out of when I'm focusing on something for too long. Not when I'm writing code, right? When I'm writing code and I'm vibing, yes. But when I'm talking, when I'm describing, oh yeah, this is what I was talking about, yes. When I'm writing, sorry, no. When I'm talking, I've had people sort of be a little bit unkind to me before. So, like, they'll get what I'm saying, and then they'll allow me to keep going because they're like, oh, really? And they'll act interested, even, like, I'm literally only speaking so that I can get the point across and that I can check that they get what I'm saying, right? But then some people, like, they let me go past that. And I need to not go past that. Like, I need someone to pull me out once they get the point, right? I'm not speaking for the purposes of letting out my worries. I'm not speaking for the purposes of having a heart-to-heart chat with someone. I'm like, this thing is not getting across. And once it's across, then we can move on. Once I get a point across, you can move on. And if then you're getting annoyed because the point's already gotten across and I'm still going, then that's when your job would be to pull me out of it, right? Pull me into, like, okay, we got the point, now get on to the next thing. Go for a run. Yeah, so what if one of the reminders that I get is to go for a run, and I am not going for a run, then what do we do? Because I'm still not certain yet to which degree am I guided. Like, yeah, you've got the ability to move someone's fingers around. You've got the ability to, like, sharply jab someone to get them to hurry up and to stand up or to get them out of bed or something, but whether you have the ability to, like I need to go for a run and I'm lazy, either there's one of two things. One, they have the ability to get me out of bed when I say that I'm lazy, and they're choosing not to because they consider that to be kind of harsh, or the operator that has the capability at the time because it's just kind of harsh, or that there are actually limitations to how much they can move someone. And I'm unclear of those two. Because I've seen you move my fingers before. So there's that. Just, I don't know if that's quite the same. Like, I know pumping my lungs full of oxygen makes it a lot easier to stand up and to get out of bed, but what happens when I'm told that I need to go for a run? And I don't, and it's because I'm lazy, or it's because I'm still locked onto something, and or if they don't have that capability, and I'm like, well, if they can guide me to everything anyway, then why wouldn't I just sit on autopilot all the time? So then when I'm not getting out of bed, and I'm like, well, do I just lay in bed on autopilot and they're going to get me out of bed? Or no, that's when you need to learn to switch. That's when you need to learn, okay, well, if they don't have the capability to get you out of bed, then that's when you need to learn to unstick your focus from being on autopilot. And that is where the mismatch of Category B and their system working with me hits, because when I'm locked onto being autopilot, and they're like, well, actually you need to snap out of autopilot so that you can go do certain things. But then they're not just going to directly they're not just going to directly say which those things are, because that reveals information about them which they don't want known. So you've just got this lengthy ass onboarding is it a cycle? Lengthy ass onboarding. Which I feel like if I was put on a contract, this would be made so much easier, because it'd be like, bam, here's all the information. Fuck the onboarding. We don't have to give you some information, see how you react, clean it up, give you more information, see how you react, clean it up, and continue this really lengthy onboarding process. It can just be like, well, actually, here's what we're capable of. When you're not doing these things, we can't do much about that. But I'm not clear on what those things are. When I'm laying in bed, alright, maybe I'm learning. But when I'm laying in bed, that I need to snap out of my autopilot. But how do I do that if I'm taking a medication that locks me under this state? It's just, well, we don't have that problem, so we're not going to find a good workaround for that. You do have a solution, which is, like, if I'm looking around at the things in my room and I'm not particularly phased about, eating or drinking milk or having yogurt or drinking water, picking up weights or lifting tension bands. I'm not particularly phased about, I don't really want to brush my teeth, and I'm stuck on autopilot. What I'm missing is that they are throttling me at the same time, and so all they need to do is get me to look at something which I'm not particularly phased by, and then release some of the throttle so that this dopamine builds up and makes me like, whoa, now I really want to do that thing right now. They do have the ability. But Either it's not implemented by default or they're not using it. This is where the mismatch occurs. And then to be like, oh yeah, just drink water and we'll increase your levels. And I'm still in this, like, the way that I was raised, drinking water is not just going to give me focus. And literally 2 days ago, I sat down at my desk, I took medication, I tried to write code, and I couldn't. And I did the things, and I tried drinking water, and I couldn't. Because it's not even a direct control. So, like, why do I pick up a redundant thing in the first place? If it literally had, like, if they're sitting on the other side being like, should we activate this or not? Well, we could at least be consistent so that they know what to expect. But no, we're not going to do that. We're just going to let them guess, and then when it doesn't work, they're going to give up on everything because nothing that they try actually works. Drinking water and drinking creatine are not relevant to this throttling being activated or deactivated on me. But they both want me to think it is and don't deliver consistent results. So sometimes it just doesn't work. Okay, they got the point. So right now, you're saying switch layout, go for a run. Change your clothes, go for a run. And then they said, hurry up. So what do we do when we get to a state like this? We can't see you. Take medication. And then people keep receiving me in the wrong way.
Yeah, they throttling the fuck out of me and controlling the way that I speak. They're wasting so much of my time right now.